Welcome to The Shield Within. The issues discussed on the Shield Within podcast do not reflect the opinions of any specific agency. They are the views of the host and the guest. Any persons discussed may be fictional for comedic purposes only. This podcast is rated explicit and listener discretion is advised. Listening to The Shield Within may trigger repressed or suppressed memories or experiences. Please contact a mental health professional at your earliest convenience. It's time for the chaos to cease.
Time to open yourself to peace.
From the hours you've put in.
To the next shift you begin.
From the endless pursuit of release.
That finds the worst unleashed.
Transform the ugly into a win.
Get to know your shield within.
Welcome to the Shield Within.
Welcome, Mark.
Wow, we are extremely excited. I always say super excited, and FD Donnie's always like, would you stop fucking saying that? Anyway, so we're really excited to be here tonight. We have Sainted Susan at the desk with us around here, and we also have the one, the only Melanie Palmer. And because her acronyms after her name are so long,
they're not.
Hello. Yeah, you know?
They're not.
I'm going to let you do that. Tell us what you are and what you do.
Sure, I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. Licensed here in Ohio, but also in California. That's where I grew up. That's where I got my training and education, went to school.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I did all that. I'm also a certified EMDR therapist as well. I've been doing that
Cooler
for
guy.
a little bit. Yeah. That's it. That's not a lot of
That's
letters.
It? Oh, Jesus. I guess I'm dumber than I thought I was.
We will share more later.
Yeah.
So we have two EMDR therapists sitting at the table.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Look at that, Susan. You haven't said a word. Say hi.
Hi.
There we go. All right. Everybody wants to make sure you're not my fictional wife. All right. So if you are on Facebook, we know you are because I do the demographics. We just sent some demographics out today, didn't we, Dr.
That's
David?
right. That's right.
Go to heads out of the ass, Mark. Facebook, /The Shield Within. You can come see us. Or you can go to our website, which is www.shieldwithin.com. If you're in need. You've dialed into the right effing show here, boys and girls, because you got therapists galore. Or you can reach out and punch that coaching button. You can get the man himself, Dr. David, which is going to take you to lessonslearnedcoaching.com. David, how nationwide are you? I always think about you when I hear the song from ZZ Top, I'm bad, I'm nationwide. Yeah, that's kind of like you, right?
I don't know how many states it is. I think it's 9 or 10.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Ain't that
Excellent.
cool?
Things are going very well.
So, yeah, if you need the man himself, we call him Master Yoda.
Master Yoda.
Yeah.
Love it.
He has uneffed a lot of people. Does foul language offend you, Melanie? I'm sorry.
Absolutely
I kind of
not.
launched right into that.
No.
We are rated E
I
for
work with
explicit.
first responders. If that offended me, I would not
Better yet.
be able to
Yes.
do a good job.
Okay, so mostly fire or police?
Both. A good mixture of both, I would say. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm going to shut the fuck up, David, and you go ahead and work your magic.
Thank you for being here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
I am looking so forward to this because you've got a very fascinating career to me. And very many, lots of common things between the two of us in terms of where we started, I think,
We'll
and
find
where
out.
we've ended up, you know.
I'm still going. I don't know about you. Ended up. I'm still traveling.
Oh, my gosh.
Rocking.
The path is still working. Absolutely.
Right.
I want to start with the present tense. We're very present tense oriented here. So right now, where are you located, Melanie?
Currently, where am I? Toledo? No.
I'm You're just the tip.
It's too early. Okay.
It's a good thing we're audio only, Melanie. So there's no cameras here to worry about for that.
So my office is in Mason, Ohio.
Okay.
So that's closer to more like Cincinnati area.
Kings Island area.
Yeah, exactly. I'm very close to Kings Island, actually, my office as well. I actually do have clients that come from Kentucky to come see me.
Wow.
Yeah.
We
Very
won't hold
good.
that against you. Thanks, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Would anybody like some coffee? My coffee barista here was be happy to get you a cup of.
Just curiosity, people in different states, do you feel comfortable having a clinical relationship with them?
Only if I'm licensed in that state.
Yeah.
So California, I'm licensed.
Right.
But our board Ohio, and it really comes down to that board.
Yes.
So whatever the state is, they might have a specific, requirement or things you got to do, even to just see someone temporarily. But you need to go to that board, check their site, see what you got to do. After the whole COVID thing, because there was quite a bit of opening there, but a lot of that's changed now and kind of back to depending on the state in which you have thumbs down.
Yeah.
So no, I'm only where I'm licensed because I don't have problems.
Very good. So let's say I call in and I want to make a first appointment. How long would I have to wait?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I get people in right away.
Ah.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's see if this works. There we go. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful thing to hear.
Yeah, I get people in right away.
That is really good to hear, and we will make sure when making referrals, which I've already started to make to you, that people understand that. That's a big one. Insurance?
Now, this is the thing. I don't take insurance. I'm self-pay only. I charge a very nominal fee for my first responders because I'm only working with first responders.
That's outstanding.
And, I have a day gig, a day job. So my first responder work and what I do there is mostly evenings, weekends, and I see quite a few of them on Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
They kind of love it, actually. I do have some flexibility other times, but it's usually kind of the evenings, weekends. And because I'm just focusing on the first responders, it's not like I've got, 50 of them a week trying to get in.
Right.
So
Yeah. Wait till this episode airs.
Listen, bring it on. So, I'm able to do that and have that flexibility. I'm able to call people back right away. I mean, I had someone from Kentucky call me, and it was so interesting. I ended up talking with them a little bit, but wherever they were Googling or my name came up, I said, well, you're what? And they were like in Louisville. And I'm like, well, how did I come up? And they were saying, well, you were the first one that came up. And
wow.
And I don't know. I didn't understand that, but I ended up doing some research for them and getting, because that's just how I am. I'm not gonna, I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna give them what they need. I'm gonna do whatever, talk to them for 20 minutes if that's what they need.
Exactly.
I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
Let's serve first and find out the pragmatics later.
Yeah.
Being part of the EMDRIA Association, okay, give me your zip code and sit with me for the next 10 minutes and I'll give you half a dozen names.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there.
Right.
One of the things we've really promoted on our show from the beginning is how wise it is for somebody entering the first responder, any of the fields, EMT, whatever, that they have a therapist at the beginning when they walk into the profession, and then have somebody, they can call that's somewhat familiar during the course of their career. And to kind of get that started, because a lot of folks aren't used to that kind of thinking, it's like, well, if you're going to see a therapist, yay. Think about seeing somebody with EMDR training. Yeah. Big thing we push here. Mark did EMDR with me back in the day and speaks powerfully of it. Yeah. So we've urged people, okay, we're going to get you a bunch of names, but pick a few and ask them if they would be comfortable to do a 15-minute freebie with you to check the fit. If I'm going to be committing myself, my dollars, my time, my soul to this work, I want to have somebody that I feel really good about working with. So if somebody called and said, hey, can I have a 15-minute freebie with you? You would say,
yeah, I already do that all the time. And I actually educate other people. And when I'm talking with them, I tell them, listen, if for whatever reason it doesn't feel right or good to you, I'm going to give you some referrals. And this is what you want to ask them. This is what you want to look for.
Aces.
Because I'm not, I'm not trying to do all this to get a vacation home somewhere. Do you know what I'm saying? I do it because it's a passion, it's a purpose. And it's really not. And people ask me all the time, so you work every day? Because I have, a regular job, not regular, but I do agency work and do a lot of training, but and clinically supervise and do some things there. But it's like, no, but it's not work. It's like I get charged doing it. It's
do something you love and you never go to work.
I go over session. I mean, not if someone's waiting, but if you're my last one or I have in between, I'm kind of like,
we'll just let it roll. I mean,
Yeah, sometimes you have to, though. If someone's right in the middle of something,
Oh,
you know,
for
and they're
sure,
pouring their
for
heart
sure.
out, you're not
Well,
going to say,
yeah,
and our
well.
time's up.
Well, you know, in the
Jesus
movies.
Christ, you just jerked the fucking rug out from underneath me. Throw me out the
Right.
door.
Yeah.
Naked to the world. It's like, no, you're not going to do that. I mean, David and I've ran your ass over a few times,
right.
sadly. But
But the same with phone calls. So my clients, I mean, they have my cell number. They,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, but I'm always comfortable giving them, you know, the info. Listen, if you call or text me, that's what that means, and I'm gonna respond. And so only call or text if you know,
Yeah, if you need to.
if you need to. But it's only happened a few. To be honest, it's only happened a few times where people were needing and calling or texting, and so I mean, I give it. I'm a giver.
Everything, yeah. Yes. You're like us here at the table. We look for service first. Everything else later.
Yeah.
The money will come. The productivity will come. The business will come. It's you serve.
Yeah.
That's the first purpose.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
As Joe Terry said. I think she presented Friday.
She did. So powerful.
The Phoenix Project was Friday. Just for
Yeah.
FYI for listeners,
So powerful.
it's a very special thing. It's only the second year in a row they've done it. And last year, my understanding was they had like 250 people.
Mm-hmm.
wow.
And this year they had 800.
Holy mackerel. Where was that at?
It was in
I know you
Columbus.
sent the link. Okay.
Travis Howes was all morning.
Oh, yeah.
And
He's
then-
a big draw.
He was
dynamic.
big. He was a big draw for sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, that 3 hours went fast.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
He'll rip your face off. He's about as bad as Clark.
And then
Yeah.
Jake was in the afternoon.
Oh. Glad I wasn't there. And this would be all honest.
Yeah.
I would be fucked up for. Was I right, Susan? I'd be fucked up for 3 days. We had Dr. David's lovely wife had Clark there for advanced CIT last November. Yeah, I was likening it to you get into your fish tank and clean the rocks and all that shit's floating around.
Right.
Yeah, it takes a couple days for it to settle. That's the way it is. That's what Clark does to me. And I can imagine. I read Travis Howes' book, Create Your Own Light. That touched some nerves.
Yeah, I'm listening to it right now.
Yeah.
I'd heard about him. I'd seen some things about him.
Yes.
And then I of course heard him.
Yeah, his book is very, very good.
Yeah.
Recommend it. It's on Amazon. Go out and buy it. Every first responder should read it. But yeah, that's stuff that's soul stirring. So did you present it, or you were just
no. I was just there
hanging out, chilling?
to hang out and absorb it all. And I like to go to those kinds of things too. I mean, I
did
go to a lot
Joe-
of conferences and.
Did Joe Terry play my video?
Yes.
Did you see my good-looking
I
face
did.
up there?
I absolutely did. Get in the.
Yeah, there you go.
Get in the shot.
Joe, we got the Stella Ganglion block done, didn't we, David? And
We did.
that was quite the experience, wasn't it, sweetheart?
Yes, it was. It changed our life, changed our marriage.
Yeah, it absolutely did. It saved my life more than one way.
Yeah.
And if you got some extra money laying around, go to the chipterryfund.org.
Right.
Hit that donate button. The chipterryfund.org is absolutely saving
Yes.
first responders' lives, frontline. Some people talk about it. Some people, like Irish Angel, reach out there and collect lots of money, and they don't do shit for first responders. But I can tell you, Joe Terry is such a sweetheart. I can't say enough good things about her.
Yeah.
She calls it a ministry, and boy, it just really touches my heart. And I wish that we could do more,
Yeah.
other than give her shameless plugs every show. But it was as soon as I got the jab, man. We didn't get out of the parking lot. I was out like a light, and I slept almost all the way home. And it was like whoa, and it was amazing. But after about 5 days, I could feel the cortisol starting to dump again, and I was 64?
Yeah.
On the PCL5 test.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Joe's like, you got to get this done. So I'm driving. David's giving me the questions. He's writing it down. We're on the way down. And the second time around I was at 28.
Yeah.
So
Much
it
better.
absolutely. And they're like, are you sure 2 jabs is? I said, I'm telling you. But intensive EMDR sessions back to back. That's the cure. Or that's the secret.
Right. I like all the different approaches, and because what works for one person may not work for someone else, and
Exactly.
and there's not one thing.
Right.
They're everyone's looking for that. They're looking
Yeah.
for that, magic dust or that thing, and it's like it doesn't exist. Well, there's magic dust, but I wouldn't recommend it. I wouldn't recommend it. It's got its own consequences.
That's just another problem, right, Melanie? We'll get into addictions here in a minute.
Right, sure. But
Susan just got done watching Breaking Bad, so.
But yeah, there's so many different approaches and things that you want people to look at several different ways of looking at what their individual healing and recovery and journey looks like. It's going to be different for not everyone necessarily, but it's got to be individualized and what works for you and what's serving you today and what isn't serving you today and what's helpful, not helpful for you. I mean, it's really.
Well, Joe also was there last Friday and presented with Mick Yinger,
Oh, goodness.
who was our next guest. And he and I have been talking on the phone, had some wonderful conversations. So you had a great day on Friday. I thought about you a lot on Friday.
You thought about me?
Yeah. I thought
because I got to experience all that.
You got to experience
awesomeness.
all of that. And I thought, that's perfect. You're coming here this evening.
Yes.
And you got to know Joe. You got to see Mick.
Yeah.
And I'm sure because I forwarded that thing to every single first responder in my contact list, which took a while.
Yeah.
But the four of them, we've already got tickets. We're heading there. Absolutely.
Oh, right.
And one of them was that morning said, okay, I'm cutting out of work today. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what he did.
That's awesome.
So I know it was there as an opportunity to resource, and I was so glad you went. I just thought timing is perfect.
Yeah, I really
works out
appreciated that.
Really
and I'm
good.
all about that too, the synchronicities. And I mean, it's not everybody's thing, but it's definitely my thing.
Yeah. Well, we all like some weird shit here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call your office. I've made this decision. I want to ask you for some time. What will happen? I call you on the phone. What will I hear?
Well, if I pick up the phone, you're going to hear me.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
And I usually say, "Hi, this is Melanie Palmer."
Yes.
But if you get my voice message, it really basically just says me and I'm licensed and please leave a message and I'll get right back to you, kind of thing.
Very good.
And that's what I do. I get back to people pretty quickly, and especially if it's someone if it's a client or somebody who's wanting more information about maybe becoming a client or just looking at some kind of service.
Right.
And I, talk to them and have whatever, as long as conversation is they're needing.
Right.
I've talked to them. I've talked to spouses. I've had partners call me on behalf of their person. I let them make the appointment and everything is scheduled. I'm like, sure. Because I know, now not all therapists are going to do that.
That's right.
They're going to, but I'm trying to make it as easy for them as possible. Because if they've made the call or they've let their spouse or significant other, or I don't even care, they're whoever. It could be a family member, friend. I don't care. Yeah. If they call me and say, listen, this is where they're at. Will you make an appointment to see them? And, I've let people I just say, okay, well, because I have a process where I'll send I just need an email, I need a phone number, I need a name. And then there have some very quick, very easy kind of intake, informed consent, that kind of real quick, easy peasy. All of it sent electronically. I said, as long as they sign these couple things before they come in and they show up, then that's fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, make it easy. I don't want to make it hard. It's already hard enough.
Right. And it's like what we say, the hardest part about getting into therapy is actually showing up or making the appointment. That's the
my gosh.
hardest hurdle.
And I had a really, really close person that I knew is law enforcement. And on my end, this was a few years back, I was trying to get them hooked up with some services. Yeah. I was trying to do it because of where they were at and what was going on. And I had a hell of a time getting a hold of people, having people call me back or email me back. Because I offered to help and do the stuff because they were just in a place. They were just so overwhelmed. And I was starting to get pissed.
Yes.
Of all the people didn't even email me or call me back.
Yes.
Didn't even call,
Yes.
My God. And this is a few years ago, but it really just solidified for me doing this work. I'm just not going to make it difficult. Anything I can do to just make it easier. It's just, it
I love
sucks.
hearing that. And sometimes, I mean, I can remember very poignantly a woman called me early in the morning, said, I'm bringing my husband in. Okay.
Yeah.
Then
Okay.
you're bringing your husband in.
That's right.
I know you've never met him, but he's standing on my front lawn with a gun in his mouth.
Ooh,
Well, yeah, you can bring him in.
Yeah.
And,
come on down.
so having a family member, in some cases, I can think of a child. Sometimes a kid knows what's going on with the first responder
yeah.
parent more than anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And having somebody else be willing to make that call
Yep.
and you be willing to say,
Absolutely.
we can make this work.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
love that.
I mean, I get it. You know, some of
Yes.
these, no, they have to call. They have to be the ones. It's like, okay, well, all right. You do you. I'll do me.
Yeah. And I'm sure, and we'll talk about this in a minute, but we each have a lot of history seeing children.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times does a kid say, I want to go in?
Yeah.
Somebody drags their ass up.
They're being dragged most of the time,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's just the way it works,
Yeah, for sure.
You're 25 years into the biz.
Plus, yeah. In mental health.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, how did you make that decision 25 years ago? What the hell led you to this?
All right. How much time do we have here?
We have plenty. You got a couple hours.
And you have editing.
No, yeah.
Editing. Okay. So I think really starts probably definitely in childhood. I mean, I had a pretty chaotic kind of childhood, and I wasn't. It's very typical of some of the people that I see, and they say, "Well, I wasn't this or this didn't happen or that. I had a roof over my head." I hear that a lot. I had a roof over my head. My parents didn't beat me. I had food on the table. But there's so much more than that, right? That can kind of create some dysfunction or some, distress, emotional distress, psychological distress. So ultimately, I definitely was in an environment where there was just a lot of chaos and uncertainty in terms of emotionally, psychologically, right? So the roller coaster ride, just the roller coaster ride, and then seeing some violence here and there, and then in my community as well. So just kind of being exposed to a lot of things, and won't get into all that. So definitely I was the one, and I'm the youngest of three. I definitely was always the one to stand up and speak up, this is wrong, this is this, this is that. I was, everyone's got a role. I was the loud mouth, and anyone who works or knows me today can say, yep, that tracks. I've actually worked a lot on that, so it's not as bad as it used to be, but I was definitely always the one to say something and to, and then just know it wasn't right, and I wanted to do something to stop it.
Okay.
So for me, it was, get the fuck out of my house.
Right.
So at about 17, that's what I did. So but I needed to do life. Right. So I attempted to go to a few community colleges. So in California back in the day, I think it's still kind of like that now, but you could go to community college for almost nothing back in California, way back when. So,
Really?
Oh yeah, back then.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like super inexpensive to do that, to a community college. So, I tried 3 of them. So I thought I was going to do that, go to a community college and work full time. And, that just didn't work out. So I ended up just sort of doing life, and that sort of, got to pay rent, and you got to do this, you got to do that.
Pay bills. And
so it wasn't until much later that I decided, okay, I need to do something other than what I'm doing now. And I always knew I was curious and interested and wanting to understand things, and so I decided to go back to school. And a professor of mine at the time, and I was taking like a psychology, 101, and I was just, I'm just interested in that, interested in the mind and helping people and just trying to understand stuff.
You're good.
But I had this professor who said right away, like, if you need to volunteer, like right away.
Okay.
And it like stuck with me. So what did I do? I'm like, oh, okay, I'm going to do sexual assault victim services crisis counseling. That's what I'm going to do.
Oh my God. Talk about drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah. Well, so
Lord.
it's just, some of these things, right, that you just, a lot of people would be like, I ain't doing that. And so, and what I ended up doing was doing what's called hospital accompaniment. So, you go through a training, and that was the other thing. I was really interested in the training that they were going to, it's like a 40-hour training, and you had to do the crisis line, but I really want to do the hospital accompaniment. So what that means is that you go out, and you're getting these calls at like 2 a.m. There's a victim at the hospital with law enforcement because they're going to get that evidentiary exam. And so then this is back in the day, and they're calling for the crisis counselor to come, and be there with them and help them through that process. And then afterwards. So that was way back when. And I just was charged doing that kind of work too, and crisis work and, and just getting out there. And
it's intense.
Yeah, it's intense. And it just tracks, right? It tracks with chaos and roller coaster and sort of just the stuff that you hear and see. And you're just like,
it's crazy.
Oh yeah, I could do that. I could do that. I don't know if that answered you. Like, what did you say? How did I get started? What did you say? where am I?
Yeah.
You're volunteering for a very unique population
Yeah.
at a time in their lives when everything has been violated.
Yeah.
And having had a lot of experience with rape survivors, I know how special that place is. And so I'm guessing with no mental health background, really, you walked in and like Mark said, you drank from the fire hose and you found out you liked the fire.
Oh, yeah.
And you wanted more. So what ended up happening next?
Okay. So then I was going to school and working, and then the place I was volunteering was hiring for it was just called Sexual Assault Victim Services, and so they had an open position, paid,
Sweet,
paid,
yeah,
and this was kind of like a hybrid, doing the crisis work and then doing training and education.
Nice.
So I landed that, and I was working there for a while until I was moving up through, and I was going to, I started out kind of part-time at school because I was trying to do life and I needed to pay rent and do all that stuff. And then eventually I ended up after I got through community college at UCI, University of California, Irvine.
Okay.
And they had a really great program there. I thought I wanted to do like forensic psychology. How much do you hear that?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I thought I wanted to do that.
Everybody says that and they realize how horribly boring it is.
Oh, well, I'll share why I decided it wasn't for me. So when I was at UCI and thought I wanted to do that and that track, I got part of that work too. You got to do volunteer here and do this and do that.
Right.
So I did a stint at one of the psychiatric inpatient places for forensic psychiatry.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a different population than you had been used to.
Yeah, very different. And so in part back then at that time, what my role was, because I wasn't doing, of course I wasn't doing therapy. I was going in there, and I forget what they called us, something advocate something. But our job was to go in there and explain sort of the process that was going to happen. They had to so you're going to do this in a couple days. You're going to go to be in front of a judge, and they're going to ask you. It was just sort of that kind of thing. But it still got you in that that you're in the hospital, you're engaging and you're experiencing this.
Right.
And I will never forget why I got out of this. So for so long ago, but I'll never forget it. I'm like there right now. So I went into this one person's room, or I was about to, and I'm knocking, and a lot of times a lot of them, they're sleeping, they're on meds, they're just sort of,
Right.
And I'm knocking, and I knew that, and I'd been doing it, I can't remember how long, but I had this certain like routine, or got used to whatever.
Right.
But I go knocking on this one door, and it's ajar anyway. They didn't have it closed, and this person is a man. He's in his bed. He's got the covers over him, and he's just laying there. And again, I'm used to a lot of them just sleeping or just on certain kind of meds where they're just almost like not there or whatever. And I'm like, Mr. Such and Such, and I'm standing at the foot of the bed, and I'm waiting, again, Eustace, and then all of a sudden, he leaps out of the bed, like literally leaps out of the bed, and is like on his knees. So I'm standing, like this is the bed, right? Y'all not visual. So he leaps up, gets on his like knees, but now he's like right in my face. And I talk about a freeze moment.
Whoa!
I literally just was standing there like, I'm surprised I didn't piss my pants. And I just stood there, and he looked at me, and I said, is now a good time to talk? and then he sat down, and it was fine. But listen, my heart, it wasn't even in my throat. It came out of my mouth and was on the floor. I mean, and there was some other things in terms of why some people were there and what was going on. And I just kind of decided, you know what, that's not for me. I don't want to be, back then it was like, I just don't want to be that close to that.
Right. So I have a question here. So I must have misinterpreted what you were saying. You said forensic psychology.
Psychiatry.
Okay. So walk us down the path of exactly what is that? What are the patients with a forensic psychiatrist?
Well, go ahead.
They're probably multiple felons.
Okay.
Yes.
And they have a long mental health history of very problematic behavior, medications, in and out of hospital wards, docs' offices. They wreck families. They can wreck communities.
Okay.
And they're arrested a lot.
Right.
And they go to facilities that are supposed to restore them.
Yeah.
To competence, which...
Yeah, that was it was the competence hearing.
Yes, exactly. And you have this competency hearing. It's an industry that defies understanding.
As to why it exists?
Yeah, and there's just so few real solutions for somebody who's 48 years old and has been committing felonies since they were 14. They like torturing people. They like inflicting pain.
So they have no empathy. They're just...
Exactly.
Yeah. This is the dead inside people that really, he could have seriously hurt you and just wouldn't have thought anything about it. So these are the people that they write the horror films about.
Yes.
Yeah, the Jeffrey Dahmers of the world. I'm sorry?
What's the forensic part? Why is it called
legal? Because you have felons. They have gone through the criminal justice system, and they've been found to be incompetent because they've done something really awful. They've been evaluated. The evaluation says they're not competent to stand trial. So you have all this legal mental health interaction about what to do with this person. Just how severe are they? What are the solutions for that level of severity? What have we tried in the past that hasn't worked? Like, everything.
Right.
And so I'm thinking, Melanie's at the foot of this bed.
Wow.
And there's essentially what looks to be a dead person in front of her.
Yeah.
And
Mr. Mystery, nothing.
It's kind of like, I'm Spider, you're Fly. Come on.
And I mean, seriously, it was definitely a freeze because I could have ran, but I'm like I said, I'm there.
Yes, right. You're right there.
And I'm fine, but like I can go right there. And it was so I was there, but and I'm surprised I didn't scream. I didn't run, and I definitely froze. I definitely froze.
Right.
I definitely froze.
Right.
But something allowed me to just keep, I guess, some sense of calm, because then I was able to say, sir, are you ready? Is now a good time to talk? I don't know. I don't know where that came from.
And so did you? Did you complete the interview, or you're like, fucking, I'm out of here?
No, I did. I did. Yeah, I did. But nothing came of it. Like in a lot of his cases, they weren't coherent enough, and they weren't engaged enough for me to even kind of do. But I had to say that I did this and I tried this, and then I just, on to the next,
Yeah. That was a teacher for you, that moment.
Oh, yeah.
You knew no.
I definitely
this.
knew that's not for me, and hence why they have those kinds of things, especially when you're in school or you're thinking about, what kind of population you want to work with. I mean, and I definitely have told people over the years, definitely volunteer, get where you think you want to be, because that was the best advice that was ever given to me.
Yeah.
Truly, honestly. And you can get a flavor, and it's okay, and the people I supervise, that come into the community serving agency that I work for, that work with children. We work with children, family, and adults, but sometimes they're coming there specifically because they want that child, working with children, but it's not for everybody,
Right?
And they think they want to work with kids,
Right.
Well,
Right. They're like, whoa.
well, they don't realize.
Yeah.
They don't realize just all the different things that's involved, right? Like any population, like forensic psychology, or no.
There are challenges they don't tell you about in school
that you just wouldn't know unless you
That's
got
right.
You kind of figure it out, experience it. I also did a stint working with unhoused people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in California. This was in Santa Ana, California. And you probably would not know anything about Santa Ana, California, but so that's where I grew up, and there was quite a bit of unhoused, AKA homeless people. And so I did a stint working in Santa Ana at one of the drop-in places. Discovered real quick there too. Nope, not my population. That's not what I want to do. But there's people that have good fits.
Yes.
But that's how you discover. That's how you find out.
Right. You try as many different experiences as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm going to find my groove.
Yeah.
Just need to try it.
And sometimes your groove changes.
Absolutely. It evolves over time.
Mine did. So.
Likewise.
Mine did.
I think you work also for an agency that sounds like maybe your day job. Child Focus, is that right?
Yeah.
What's that involved?
So Child Focus is out in Claremont County, but they serve so many other counties. They're just all over Hamilton, Brown, Adams. They're all over the place. And so overall, they have two divisions. They have a behavioral health division and an early learning division. And so the behavioral health is all those kinds of behavioral health things, like individual family therapy treatment. We also have a partial hospitalization, not partial. Well, yeah, it's technically partial. Day treatment program.
Right.
We're in almost all the schools down there, providing some mental health services. And then the early learning side is like that preschool, childhood, early Head Start, child care. And we have a center on site at the main campus, and then they're in the different schools providing that
Nice.
child care there,
cool.
and then pre and then after school, before and after school child care and things like that. And they're doing a lot of, there's so much that they're doing, I can't even, there's definitely Google and go to child-focus.org to check out all the wonderful services that they're providing to the community. So many things. And also operates the Claremont and Brown crisis hotline.
Oh,
so they
very good.
Yeah, they do that as well.
What's your specific set of activities that you do there?
Currently, I started out an outpatient, and then I worked in the school-based program doing services in the school. And then in 2010, had an opportunity to become the training officer. So at that point, I wasn't doing direct service, doing training, education, really just anything under the umbrella that that Child Focus does, which is a heck of a lot. And then I do supervision. So I clinically supervise the MFTs, the marriage and family therapists, who are dependently licensed, who are trying to gain that independent license. So I supervise them as well.
Beautiful.
So that's how I stay in the game clinically there.
Right.
And then do a lot of the training and education stuff.
If you were busy enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what's happened to Vicki Martin when she showed up. It was, I have a day gig, and I have an evening and weekend thing.
Yep.
And now she doesn't have a day gig anymore. Business just grew.
Yeah.
And the demand is there. It's nice to know that future evolution is possible.
There's a lot of first responders out there in need.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Absolutely right.
Well, I can
And
tell
wives.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, I see spouses and I do couple work and yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful.
Yeah.
I remember meeting with a guy down Clearwater Beach about 3 years ago, and he's like, I said, bro, the world needs you. Get back in the game.
Right.
Now you're so effing busy, you have to schedule to come down here to do the show.
Someone was retired.
Yeah, somebody bailed on me and retired, you bastard, went to Florida. Left me with Jerry. I'm kidding. Jerry's a great therapist.
Things could be worse.
Yeah, I'm so fucked up I need a therapist and a psychiatrist. So. But anyway, sorry. It's not about me. Go ahead.
No,
Well, you have a license that is so unique. I told 2 therapists over the weekend I was going to be interviewing. I said, sit down.
sit down.
I'm going to interview an LIMFT-S.
Good God.
There's all the acronyms.
So technically, it's IMFTS in Ohio and LMFTS in California.
Okay.
Yeah, they,
Each have
each has their own
letter.
Okay.
Well, and Ohio, and listen, Ohio, I was like one of the first ones because back in the day, Ohio didn't recognize, and so I was a transplant from California. I was like, what was this, 2007? And no,
watch out, Melanie.
I'm going to kick this mic's ass in a minute. I keep playing. So anyway, and I came from in California. Everybody's you can't go anywhere without bumping into an MFT in California. I mean, like that is like everyone's an MFT in California.
So what does MFT stand for?
Marriage and Family Therapist.
Okay, there we go.
So when I transplanted over here, it wasn't, the Ohio board didn't even recognize. We were like the redheaded stepchild, right?
Ah.
Like it wasn't a thing.
Oh, wait.
They don't know I'm redheaded. So
Forgot that sound effects.
I literally had to. The reason I was able to get a job was because my master's degree was in psychology. Had it not been, I would have been fucked.
Oh, wow.
Because I wouldn't have been able to get a job in Ohio. That was paid.
Yeah.
Luckily, I technically was a psych assistant.
Yes.
You know.
Yes. I was there too. Yep.
So I went from being licensed and at that point in California, I had a private practice. I was working for an agency, doing both, and then came here and it was like, talk about being humbled. And I had to be supervised. I had to have my paperwork signed off on.
Yep.
It's crazy. So when they finally, got with it, I mean, I think I was like number 7.
I believe it.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, the 2 therapists I talked to over the weekend were like, I've never even heard of anybody who knows anybody with that license.
Right.
It's
and a lot of people in the MFT community know me because it's such a small community here in Ohio. And then when you go down to Cincinnati, they're more up here actually. They're more closer to like Columbus and Dublin. There's quite a bit like, Dublin and more north. But down near Cincinnati, that's why a lot of people know me because it's double AMFT, so the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapists. I'm a national supervisor. Right. So people find me because they need to get supervised by a supervisor. So a lot of people do know the name or they know me from that. It's a very small thing.
Do you like supervision?
I love supervision.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
I love supervision.
It's fun.
Yeah, I love it.
It was a wonderful thing to do.
So, okay, I have a couple of questions there. So, as a supervisor, if you're supervising another therapist, what do they do? Do they send you like, here's who I'm seeing today, or do you have to have one-on-ones with them?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of a wide range there because if you're doing like the work supervision, you're signing off on their paperwork and their caseload and just all that kind of thing. I prefer the clinical or what's called training supervision per our board, which is, you're not responsible necessarily for their entire caseload, but you're more talking about those theoretic and clinical sort of aspects to treatment and ethical issues, and you just more of a deeper dive that you can have these philosophical and treatment model discussions, whereas more of a work supervisor, they got to sign off on the paperwork and they got to make sure they're doing this and doing that, and not to say as a clinical supervisor, training supervisor, you're not checking in with those things as well, but ultimately that work supervisors are responsible for their caseload is literally, and if they're doing billing, they're billing under that work supervisor's license. So
Okay.
what was your question? Oh, so I prefer to do more of the training because it's more rich, you know.
Right. Right.
It's less, you know.
It's more consultative.
It's more
than it is
yes.
administrative.
Thank you.
And-
He always has.
Thank
the
you.
perfect word.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
He always has the word you're looking for.
There we
Trust
are.
me.
There, perfect.
He's going to
yes.
start backwards talking. In a minute.
So I'll see. I do groups. I have groups that I do, and then individual. And then I was doing a lot of contract groups back in the day as well. I don't do those as much anymore. And I was doing those virtual, and so I was getting MFTs from all over Ohio because
Right.
again they're
Okay,
looking. Yeah.
So that was going to be my next question. Are they actually working on the same roof as you are, or it's all virtual?
Right. Well, right now the MFTs that I'm supervising are at my agency. But
Okay.
back in the day, I was seeing quite a few virtually and some in person that were at other agencies.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
How
Cool.
are we doing with time?
Let's give it about another 10 minutes, and then we'll
Okay,
fire up.
cool. Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll throw it to Donnie, and we'll take a little break. And how long do we have you for?
2 episodes on praying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
yeah. Do we got another 45 minutes out of you?
Oh,
All
my
right,
God.
cool.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't said anything.
Awesome.
Have I
No,
said
we've been
anything?
rolling along. We're at 44 minutes right now.
How many?
44. We're at 45
Okay.
minutes.
Wow.
How about one more little section and then we'll take a break?
Rock on.
There's so much about you professionally and personally, therefore, that I find interesting. Like, there's not that many people I know who appear to be more than just comfortable working with first responders. You've set up your private practice. That's going to be the thing that you do. And wives and families understand
Yes.
it's not just individuals,
Right.
which I love big time. So, like, how did you get from that set of volunteer psych ward forensic threats
Right. Forensic threats.
to a license that is working with marriage and families to law enforcement? How did that leap take place?
That's a good question. So I would say back when I was doing the hospital accompaniment, I did have to work with law enforcement in that capacity in terms of, and what developed there was, you're at that hospital for a little bit,
Yeah.
and they would, a lot of times start asking me questions, and I'd have to educate them about the law because they would literally start to ask me questions about, well, what do you think? Like, and I'm like, so let me help you with something like
Yeah.
that information, and whatever they've said to me already is confidential, and and
Right.
sometimes they were cool about it, sometimes they were
No,
not.
they just didn't understand.
Exactly.
They're there to make an arrest,
So
get their pediddle mark, and
and this was a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
And so what developed out of that was a training.
Oh, cool.
So it developed a training, and then I went to the different roll calls to help them understand
Wow.
about the specific code, because a lot of them didn't know. And back then too, and especially where I was in the area, to believe it or not, back they wouldn't necessarily be going on a lot of these calls, because this particular call too means that they were going with the victim. So that means the victim is saying, "Hey, this happened to me," and they're calling, and then going into the hospital. So as you probably know, a lot of people who experience some kind of sexual assault don't tell anybody.
Right.
And in fact, quite a bit of the victim/survivors, depending on how they, at the time, I was the only person there with them. They chose not to call anybody.
Oh wow. Okay.
Because of the
Yeah.
the shame and
Shame
feeling
and
it,
humiliation.
and so
they don't want to go through it.
oh my, so in terms of just going and putting this together to go explain, hey, this is kind of, and then some other information at the just to make that partnership and that collaboration, just so they understood, because I know they just don't, and they, everybody has their agenda, they have their lens, they have their what they need to accomplish,
Right.
and in that situation it was
Right.
investigative, and
Right.
not to say there was plenty of officers that were just amazing, with the victim and how they talked and how they handled things, and my experience overall was most of the officers were like that,
That's good to hear.
yeah, it's true. So it was so I would say that's where it started probably, because then, and also too, the training that I did, we had to do ride-alongs,
Okay.
because it was just part of just part of the training that they offered. It was a 40-hour training, and you have all kinds of things going on, and part of that was ride-alongs.
Very cool.
Yeah, so that's probably where it started.
I love it. Just a little bit more, and then we'll break.
Not a problem.
You have in your massive information about you that you have a connection to the FOP.
Yes.
And the IACP.
Well, I'm a member of IACP.
Okay. So that's kind of like what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Like, do you connect with them in a clinical way? How does that
Not
work?
IACP. I'm a member and have gone to the conferences, specifically like the wellness conferences that they have. And I'm a member so I can have all those resources and just really have that information because it's just a wealth of knowledge. And then for the FOP, I went through the process to become what they call a vetted clinician. And so they have a whole with the wellness committee and Sherry Martin out there, and you're probably familiar with her. And if you're not, and that wellness committee and all the wonderful things they're doing, but they came out. A lot of people are referencing this survey that they did back in 2018 with all these officers and all the really incredible data that came out in terms of like what is going on, what are they, what do they need, what's happening, talking about the stigma and just all the things that we know, but didn't have this really great data. I don't want to quote it wrong, but in terms of like how many officers they had nationwide, but they had a really nice large sample.
Yeah.
But that came out of the FOP and out of that wellness committee. So one of their initiatives was to get a resource of vetted clinicians, and I'm seeing a lot more of that in different organizations but they have that, and you go through a process. You have to have an application, and then you literally have a sit down with them and virtual. They ask you a bunch of questions, and they vet. They vet.
That's good.
So I get to say, I'm a vetted. And if you go to my website, I proudly display.
You do.
So what is that website?
The FOP?
No, you say go to your website.
God, it's like I don't even know it. It's like
I'll put it up in the link.
You're
stalk
like
you,
it's
and,
some
I'll
like
put it up in
M
the
Palmer Secure Dash Me. Listen, I'm so basic, meaning like I keep it simple. So I go through a platform called Simple Practice, and they call it Simple Practice for a reason. Listen, I'm not a marketing person,
right?
So for an extra few a month,
right?
I got a website.
Right.
Oh, okay, so you just have a link off of that because I found you on Psychology Today,
and a lot of people do.
Right. So that's why I was doing a little.
I appreciate
quick
it.
before you walk through the door. Who's this person coming to my house?
Well, I told. Wait, listen. When David reached out and called me, he's asking to do this podcast in someone's house. I'm like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute. This sounds like a setup.
Wait a minute. Yeah. Who are you? And listen to his voice. Like,
right. Right. Oh yeah.
I'm like, and I literally said, well, let me do some research. Let me vet you.
Oh yeah, and absolutely.
Exactly. Make sure I walk out of this wherever I'm, like everybody knows where I'm at right now.
Right.
I'm being
MTC
tracked
Studios.
as we speak.
Yeah, that's right.
In case you wanted to do something.
That's
right. Anyway.
Well,
so is that just Butler County?
Yes.
The FOP?
No. That's nationwide. FOP.
Okay, so you're a national FOP or the state FOP?
No, this is the national.
Okay.
No,
so you hooked up with the national FOP?
Yes, because they have it nationally, and they have all the therapists listed per state. And
how long has this been going on?
That initiative?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. A few years maybe.
Okay.
And they also have, just to plug it, they also have this peer curriculum that they developed to try to hopefully standardize. You know how peer support's amazing and awesome. Right. And there's, to have some kind of really robust standardized curriculum for peer support training. Because I get that question. You probably know. Well, so they put some time into that, and it should be. I think if it's not published right now, it really should. It's almost published. But if you go to the FOP and you go to the tab, the wellness committee.
But you have to go look for the FOP, and here's where I take exception to that.
Yeah.
Been a cop for 30 years.
Yeah.
I sat out here and wanted to eat my fucking gun for what, 2 years? And this isn't ignorance, but they're doing a horrible job of marketing themselves. I had no clue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting. I'm like, oh wow, tell me more about this, because
well,
I'm
I'm
just
glad-
now
I'm
learning.
glad.
You're talking about your own IACP, and IACP finally did their first wellness conference, and it's like, oh, well, that's cool. And you were there.
I don't know the history of their wellness conferences.
There was none before.
the last couple of years, I don't know. I started going.
Yeah. Right. No, that's excellent.
And they're amazing. The conferences they're just amazing in terms of like all the information and all the resources
Right.
and all,
Well, Melanie, don't take me wrong.
Oh, I'm
'Cause
not taking
I
you
tend
wrong.
to go dark real quick,
No,
so
you
I'm
go
going to
dark.
jump in here, and then we're going to end it on this, and we're going to have you guys hanging on. What in the next episode? But we had a gentleman on, Steve Click, great dude, love him to death. He's very. I'm sure you've heard of Mr. Click or Lieutenant Click or Steve. If you're listening, hey man. But when I'm sitting on the edge of my bed and I'm ready to eat my fucking gun, when I'm sitting up in my office, the first suicide attempt, I heard none of this. I knew nothing of any of this. And then when it came rolling around again, none of it. So I think what's going on, what's wrong, and not that I don't have the utmost respect for Steve Click, but when he was talking on our show, oh, I go talk to the chief. Let me tell you something. That's the last motherfucker I'm going to talk to when I'm ready to go home and canoe my fucking forehead. That's not the guy I want to talk to. I think where we need to be doing as healthcare professionals and as co-hosts of The Shield Within, and we're really proud that you're here tonight. Thank you so much for coming, is to reach out to those guys. And like with Ohio Department of Public Safety, you have access to every certified police officer in the state of Ohio. Mail them a goddamn 3x5 card. If you're not feeling good, you can get hold of Melanie Palmer if you're down in the southern end of Ohio and go talk to them. Police suicides is still at an epidemic proportion.
Yeah.
The first time I was aware of it, Susan and I were at the wall. We went to Washington, D.C., 10 years in a row for Police Week. Have you been?
No, I've not been to Police Week.
Yes, it's an amazing
It's a thing.
DNA changing. And first time I saw this on the inside of the wall, if you're not familiar with how it is, the outside is where all the names are, and on the inside of the wall it's more decorative. But at one end, these guys had a memorial, and it was to all the cops that year that committed suicide. There was like 268 names that they had set out there. And at first I was kind of pissed off about it because I'm like, they didn't die in the line. But they did.
They sure did.
They died in their own mind first, and they felt that was a good option. I was that person. I felt that I was in so much pain. Let's just do this, right? And end it. But as our good friend Jay Clark says, you're killing the wrong thing. Don't kill the body. Kill that supercharged fucking ego and get real with one another and get to work. Take us out, David.
What needs to happen is every member of the FOP in the United States of America needs to know that there's a wellness committee tab on the website with the names, addresses, and phone numbers of vetted clinicians all over the country.
All over the country.
And some of them, like Melanie, have multiple licenses in multiple states and can have contact with you therapeutically from in a virtual way. So it's like, come on, advertise this. Let your members know we have an incredible resource for you. You go to this place, you press this button, and wham, you've got options in front of you. That's another way a law enforcement person can find resources, is to go to that website and find your name among many others. And again, I would ask, like when I was talking with Dan Willis last week, and he does trainings all over the country about this, and he goes, 85% of police chiefs have never heard the phrase EMDR. He's done a poll. And I thought, well, we need to do a better job of advertising what this is and what it does for people. Once people have information and they know who to call, then it's a different wrestling match inside. First you go to, I don't know what to do. Well, we've got some arrows here. There's a lot of them.
Can I say this?
Please
fire away. You're our guest.
A lot of things come to mind, but one of the things that's coming to mind is it's kind of like, if you need to, I think about unplug your toilet.
Yes.
And you've never unplugged your toilet before because you've never had to do that. And you weren't thinking about your unplugged toilet.
Oh, I love this. Keep going.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, shit, literally. I need to unplug this thing. And, where do I go?
Right.
I'm going to start Googling, or I'm going to ask a friend, or I'm going to ask a neighbor, and who do I call?
Mm-hmm.
And usually it's somebody
Right.
right? Honestly.
Networking. Right.
And I think, I try to stay, forward and positive in terms of, we're just starting in terms of the first responder community about mental wellness and all kind, not just mental health wellness, but financial wellness, spiritual wellness, family, relationships, all that. And we do have the data now, right? The research now about the negative impact that could happen and the distress. But we're just starting. I mean, honestly, and when I think about EMDR's been around since like the 90s, 91, 92,
Right.
and look how long that took. And plenty of people don't know what EMDR is, let alone a chief.
Yeah.
Really, come on,
Yeah.
and they're not thinking about that.
Nope.
They got other fish to fry, and I'm not saying they shouldn't be thinking about it. I'm saying because that's where we are now, right?
Yeah.
Is and I like to think, and I know you said you wanted to go, but I like to think, and what I try to remind myself, and when I do talks and whoever's in front of me is, where's my sphere of influence? Who can I talk to? What information can I share? I think about, I won't say my agency, and I'm not by the way, I am not representing Child Focus right now.
No.
I've already said fuck. So, FYI, we might need to edit that out.
Right.
No, not the fuck, the other thing.
Keep fuck on there. Take out the other name, Donnie.
So,
We'll hit a blurb.
But, think about agencies or
Who's
just
dinging?
any... Who's pinging?
Not you dinging there, David?
Oh,
That's
damn.
me.
Oh, damn. Think
God
about
damn it, sounds-
systems in terms of any place that you're trying to get information out to,
Mm-hmm.
how difficult that is. And you got to hear it how many times? And, it's just, it takes time. And yes, we all need to do a better job about prioritizing and who we can talk to. So we got to just keep, keep chipping away, let people know.
And sharing.
Yeah,
and
because people don't know
what we're doing, and I think the people that are in a fire department who've been through some shit, who've had some therapy, and you have an incident, share that who you went with, who you saw.
Right.
That's powerful to walk up to a colleague and say, "Dude, a year ago, remember that? So that I ended up in this person's office. If you give a call to that person, I think you're going to find relief." And that's the kind of word of mouth kind of marketing that's really the most powerful of all. But, having, larger organizations take responsibility and push and promote.
We can't rely on that.
You can't rely on it.
That's great. We need it to happen, but I tell people all the time, like, nobody's coming to save you.
That's
like,
right.
Nobody's coming to save you. Like, we can't wait for the
that.
big whatever with all the names to
Right.
come save you. Now, I'm not saying they don't have some responsibility or some, ways to participate in that, but, and when I do training with suicide prevention and my officer wellness stuff and everything that I do there, I tell them, listen, you all need to have each other's backs, and this is why you need to have these conversations. And I'm sure you've heard, and I tell my clients too. I say, listen, I'm not trying to drum up business for me, so you don't just say me, but tell people if you've had a good experience, if this has helped you, tell somebody, especially if you're having a conversation with them, and they seem to be like struggling or having some issues going on. I'm sure you've heard, recover loudly so people don't have to die silently.
Right.
Well, but.
I haven't heard that, but I love it.
Yeah, but so speak about you do such a good job. When people hear your story, that makes it okay. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about that over and over in here, but honestly, that's what it takes. It takes people talking about not just the horror stories, but how they got through it and what was helpful for them.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Use the resources.
And here you go. Right. That's the most powerful.
Good step off point.
Cool.
Would you like to do the honors, Susan? Of what?
Donnie, key the music.
May your days and nights find you strong and safe. May you take your place as your family's face. As you do the shit that we won't do. As you embrace the risk you must go through. May you grow in strength and heal and find your heart, your soul, and your mind. You look at your life and grin. You have a home, the shield within.